When you start out with your first car, you're enthusiastic about it, you spend a lot of money on it, and let's face it, if we're honest, we spend too much money on it. So this video, I'm just really going to highlight some of the things that I wish I'd known back then that would have saved me spending extortionate amounts of money on my car. These are little tips that I've picked up over the years, experiences that I've had buying upgrades and parts for my car that I'm just hoping to pass on to you so you can avoid making the same mistakes that I did. Of course, if you like making your own mistakes and wasting money, don't watch this video. It's not for you. So the first thing I learned was that a lot of the claims that manufacturers make on performance parts is exaggerated. Often a part that claimed to improve economy or improve the car's performance just didn't do what it claimed or didn't make the gains that were estimated on the box. So with regulation now on advertising, there are limits to the claims that manufacturers make, but they still make misleading statements. You generally see power gains of up to 30 horsepower, for example, which basically means any number under 30 horsepower is covered by that statement. It's not saying that you're going to make 30 horsepower. So when you're buying a mod and you're looking at a power upgrade, it's really good to try and see other people's cars, other people's projects, particularly the dyno printout, and see what effect this mod has had on their project car. Really by asking around and seeing what other people have done and how effective mods have been, you can build a really accurate picture as to how effective mods are going to be. So the second thing that I learned was that mods always have a hidden cost. So whenever you increase the power, you're generally sacrificing a little bit of reliability. You're maybe increasing the fuel consumption on the car. There may be extra wear and tear on the tyres. So for most people, that's not a major consideration. These are things that you would expect when you're tuning and modifying a car. But often how far you go, how aggressive the tune is, how many mods you add to the engine and how much more power it's making will have a bearing on these factors and may push this car that you're hoping to be your daily runaround into the realms of an expensive weekend-only project car. So it's really good just to estimate how much increased cost of maintenance you're going to have as a result of these mods that you've done. So another thing that I've learned over the years, and the most important thing really, is your grip, the tyres that you fit to your car. So the grip that your car has affects the handling, the acceleration and the braking. So if those tyres are inadequate, you're really wasting your money doing mods on other areas of the car. Those 4 points of contact that the car has with the road are really the only thing that counts in terms of being able to get that potential power down onto the road. And if they're so bad, if they're too narrow, for example, or even if they're too wide and you're driving in wet conditions, or it's the wrong profile on the tyres or the wrong tread pattern for the season that you're in, you are sacrificing performance unnecessarily. So that's something that you should just look at and get addressed if possible before you even start doing other mods on your car. So another thing that I've learned over the years is the cost of doing work on a car. You buy a part and it looks like a fairly straightforward, it's just going to bolt onto the engine somewhere. But then you start to realize that the engine's not very accessible. You need to maybe take other parts off to get that part fitted. Or you find that the bolts and the clamps that you've got on your car are rusted, and you have a real problem trying to just get them undone so you can replace parts. Often when you take the car into a garage or a mechanic, the costs that you expect are far below what you are actually charged for the work. So it's always good to get a firm estimate or quote up front. Bear in mind that they are going to have the problem with getting parts off, making parts fit. In some cases, they may even have to remove the front of the car to get access to the engine bay. So whereas it may look like a simple part that just bolts on, it can cost quite a bit in extra labour just getting that part in the engine and fitting it. So it's not a rule of thumb, but I generally find that a part that will cost 500 usually costs another 500 to 700 to just get that part fitted and working on the car. There's definitely a hidden cost. Don't just start running up a bill from the parts catalogue, get all these boxes delivered, and then expect a mechanic to magically drop these parts into your car. I really do recommend that you learn a little bit about working on the car yourself, because that's going to save you lots of money. You're going to have the satisfaction of knowing that you did that work, that car is yours, and you will have done it to your high exacting standards. So obviously, as you're starting out, you're going to start making mistakes. I would certainly recommend that you avoid working on essential areas such as the brakes, and other important safety features on the car and leave that to a specialist until you've got the experience to do that. But in most cases, online manuals, forums, instruction manuals, look on our site as well. You'll generally find the information you need to get parts fitted or upgraded. And often it's fairly simple and fairly straightforward to do yourself. So for many years, I used to hold back from doing anything on my car at all and would pay someone else to do it. And then I suddenly realized that I was spending money unnecessarily. I could get the work done when I wanted it done and to the standard that I wanted. I knew that I would use the right oil, for example, at service time. And that's really improved the quality of the time that I spend with my car. I'm not subject to breakdowns and I'm not relying on someone else to check all of the little issues that might possibly have cropped up when you start changing things and modifying things. So another thing that I wish people had told me was the legal aspects of modifying cars. So in some areas, you don't have to worry at all about this, but in most areas, there are regulations that surround the emissions of the vehicle. Anything that involves affecting the emissions and prevents the car from meeting the emission standards it was designed to would often render the car illegal for road use. Insurance implications as well. Most insurance companies will have a question somewhere on the form to ask if you've modified, updated or specially tuned any parts of the car with non-standard factory parts. So some insurers have a very pragmatic view of modifications, and generally they will feel that you're an enthusiast at looking after your car and charge a premium accordingly. So that's the advantage really to seeking out these specialist insurers that can offer bespoke quotes for the mods that you've had done on your car. And because you've done extensive mods and you've really shown that you want this car to be kept in good condition, the insurers will generally reward you with the premium that reflects that. So some insurers out there just shy away from all mods. They assume that anyone that mods a car is a very young driver, a very reckless driver, and is going to take chances. So in those cases, they may load the premium. You find yourself paying more for insurance. You can back yourself into a corner where you've got your insurance, you've modified your car, then you go to your insurer and you find out there's a massive extra cost or they just won't cover you. And then you've got to go through the process of getting the car reinsured, which is a real hassle. So investigate the legal aspects of upgrading and modifying your car. Are those mods going to take it beyond the manufacturer's standard specifications? And is that going to adversely affect the performance, the handling? Could it introduce dangers and other risks that wouldn't be there with the standard setup that comes from the manufacturer in the first place? They're all things the insurance company really will take into account. So there's certainly things that we should take into account when we go to modify our cars. So another thing I learned was not to look at headline power figures. You get a car on the dyno, it's making 220 horsepower. So it's nice to be able to brag that your car does 220 horsepower when all your mates are only getting 190 horsepower. But that's only the very small part of the upper part of the RPM range. It's not going to be much fun to drive in your everyday situations. So although on paper it looks like you've got a powerful, flexible engine, you should really look at the entire torque curve and just make sure that that power is where you use it. Now, every driver has got different requirements. You're sometimes going to want the power just in the top end of the RPM range. In a motorsport environment, it's quite useful to have that. But on your daily commute, you probably want the power much lower down to assist you with overtaking other cars and pulling away at lights and at junctions. So always dismiss the peak power gains and try and look at the overall torque curve and power curves that you get. And that'll give you a fairer reflection and understanding of how effective those mods are going to be on your car. So please hit up the comments and pass on tips that you've found over the years of modifying and upgrading your cars. We love to have people shared experiences. It improves my knowledge. I certainly don't claim to know everything. I make mistakes. And I'm very much learning. I find with cars, the more you learn, the more you realize there is to learn. There's a whole wealth of knowledge and information out there. And the more information we have, the better decisions we can make when it comes to modifying and upgrading our cars. So thanks for watching. Please boot that like button because that really does help us to get out there. And I've lined this video up for you to help you to get the most performance out of your car. So thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.